It's
and
not
so
controversial. It's just
for
a
one
statement
person
back.
to decide I'm not going to do it is a very selfish decision because meanwhile you're not doing it.
No, absolutely not. It is an incredibly selfish decision to try to justify joining the IDF. Well, it's very, very selfish to not join the SS, to not attempt to reach the SS. It is mandatory for each German citizen, yeah. Speaking of nothing good, Ethan Klein. So we're gonna watch this now. We are going to watch this ridiculous, insane video. So BadEmpanada is a fucking crazy person, but BadEmpanada can sometimes be a pretty good empanada. And in relation to Ethan Klein's infamous content puke.
We've got some edgy material here, and watch your hands, because you're gonna get cut up on this one here, guys. You can scar me, but you can't stop me. Now that is interesting and very deep and poetic. But what's even more interesting is if we just go a couple pixels down. Boom.
Jesus
That's some
Christ.
good camel toe, girl. Yeah, nothing like making a political statement, like showing off that camel hoof, girl. Yeah, let me get down with that shit, boy. Can smell it from here. Shit.
What you just watched is a video of Ethan Klein, supposed YouTube royalty, viciously sexually harassing a victim of the Boston bombing terrorist attack. When people talk about the old H3H3, about how great their old videos were, about how they used to be really funny, this is the sort of content that they're talking about.
Yeah, we're missing context, and Ethan was one of the edge tubers. That's the thing, is that, like, I know he was an edge tuber. Like, I have this thing about comedy. Comedy ages like milk, alright? And when one goes out to create comedy, in the early aughts and in the early days of YouTube, super ultra edgy statements were considered comedy. Now, as somebody who never really liked that, because it was really just like being disgusting and going, hey, look at me be disgusting, it could be really weird and awkward and gross, and like, I cannot say that, like, every joke that is made like this by somebody, if it is a joke, when it is a joke, is, like, worth destroying, or, like taking them down to things. Like, James Gunn is a great example. James Gunn worked for Troma. James Gunn made incredibly over-the-top, really, really gross and distasteful jokes a long time ago. Something he has since apologized for and regretted. And even by Troma standards, he went pretty fucking far. And, like, that's, good that he did that. He owned up to it and he apologized and he moved on. I think that the only proper response to this, instead of going, oh, people are missing context, oh, it was a joke, it was satire, is just to go, yeah, that was a bad joke. I'm not going to defend it. That was fucked up of me. I'm sorry. That was wrong. And then accept it and move forward. Because otherwise, it's trying to normalize that as an idea to anyone that might be seeing it now and think that there are excuses that can be made. And I don't think there are excuses that can be made in these cases.
He's a vehement defender of the genocidal Israeli state, and I have refuted him extensively on those terms. But the thing with Ethan is that he knows he can't respond to me on those terms, so he hasn't even tried to. So when I made videos refuting his claims regarding Israel and Palestine, he responded by pretty much immediately trying to make it personal. Rather than responding to me on the merits of my arguments and the facts that I was putting forth, Ethan immediately went looking for dirt on me as a person, and he uncritically believed and spread the first rumor that he found, which was him accusing me of being a pedophile.
Here's a tweet from him. You guys will enjoy this. It says, oh, Hamas raped a bunch of babies and kids now? Where's the video evidence of it? I was looking to jerk off anyway. You think I'm kidding? That's a real tweet.
Now that was the first time Ethan had ever replied to me, and what he did was hold up a fake tweet to the camera and say this is a real tweet. This tweet was made by a pro-Israel harassment organization called the Shirion Collective, who then spread it in a defamation campaign against me. And Ethan was all too happy to latch onto this just to get back at someone who was criticizing him for his political views. And I think the most pathetic part of this is that he only really did this to get back at Hassan Piker. This seems to be where everything that Ethan does stems from. He has like this weird obsession with Hassan Piker, and pretty much everyone who he attacks, he's primarily attacking them as a means of getting back at Hassan Piker.
I mean, Hassan has been glazing up this dude BadEmpanada.
So Ethan Klein, in the name of getting revenge against Hassan Piker, went looking for personal dirt on me, solely because Hassan Piker reacted to a single one of my videos, which, to be clear, was not even a video that had anything to do with Ethan Klein.
Ethan is so obsessed with Hassan Piker that it is legitimately disturbing. I want to say, like, pathological desire to hate Hassan is... It would be, in any other scenario, right? I think for any other person, it would be seen as an obvious break in mental health. Because it is really fucking weird. Like, everything comes back to Hassan with him. Every single argument comes back to Hassan Piker.
His entire career is built on little more than attacking others. He constantly derides defamation and so-called snark. Yet my first ever interaction with him was literally him trying to defame me with pretty much the worst allegations you can ever make against someone, that they're a pedophile. He's done this to plenty of other people. He's done it to the Twitch CEO Dan Clancy.
DJ Dan Nance. Nancy. You like that? How do you say it in England, what they call pedos? Nonce?
Very good.
Nonce, but
Dan Nancy. That's good. And it's Nazi. It's Nazi and pedo in one. Dan Nancy.
it's not as good as you think it is.
It's not.
And he has also recently been bizarrely accusing the journalist Taylor Lorenz of being a pedophile because she interviewed a 17-year-old for a story, and she dared to post the video that I showed in the intro of Ethan Klein sexually harassing what he called a juvenile. Ethan Klein clearly has a warped idea of evidence. He thinks that, like, just talking to a 17-year-old once is pedophilia, yet apparently him sexually harassing what he implied was a child, literally on video, isn't. Never apologized to the 17-year-old victim of the Boston bombing who they sexually harassed. They also have never apologized to Patrice Wilson or expressed any remorse for what they did. On top of that,
What's up,
Ethan has
not
also,
Major,
like,
not-
out of the
not
blue,
my-
accused other
the-
people of
it's good to see
sexual
ya.
misconduct, like with Hassan Piker, which he brought up once and then never elaborated on.
He looks like someone at a Big Lebowski party, you know, where he...
Jackie Treehorn?
Yeah, he looks like he's at a Jackie Treehorn party. You know, fucking drunk women. Which surprisingly doesn't seem too far off from what he actually does do. Or has done, at least.
What?
This is basically just a pattern for him. Ethan seems to love accusing people of committing sex crimes, especially sex crimes against children. The point that I'm making here is that there is clear video evidence of him expressing the feelings towards children that he keeps accusing others of having. You know, as far as I'm aware, the only time that Ethan Klein has ever been mentioned in the New York Times, it was to talk about the fact that he went into like a VR chat room meant for kids, or at least mostly populated by kids, and was intentionally sexual around them, to the point that one of the kids literally called him a groomer. Where does he get off making these sorts of accusations against people, man? It's fucking crazy. By the standards that Ethan uses himself to accuse others of being pedophiles or child sex criminals or just normal sex criminals, which is literally zero evidence, nothing, then he himself could be branded one a million times over, given the amount of actual video evidence that there is of him expressing sexual feelings towards children. So it really can't be emphasized enough. Ethan Klein's first ever interaction with me, his first ever response to me, was literal defamation of the most malicious and disgusting kind. He literally accused me of being sexually attracted to fucking babies. To babies! This guy accused me of that, based on a fake screenshot that he didn't spend even 2 seconds fact-checking. He holds it up to the screen, and he says, this is a real tweet. So keep this in mind here. Ethan Klein is someone who has been accusing people for at least a decade now, based on no evidence of being child sex criminals and or sex criminals. When he whines about defamation, or people supposedly lying about him and how he's a poor little victim, remember that first and foremost. He has never pulled any punches on defaming others in the absolute worst, most malicious ways possible. No one has said anything about him that is even remotely as disgustingly false and defamatory as what he has said about literally dozens of other people made up out of thin fucking air. And this is something that Ethan always leaves out of his narratives regarding the people who he attacks. He always lies by omission. He never brings this stuff up. Every single video that I have made responding to Ethan Klein has been me either refuting his claims regarding politics and real-world events, or responding to malicious defamation that he has put out into the world against me. And he tries to make it out like I'm like this international criminal mastermind who is like leading some sort of cabal against him or something, which is just... I mean, the guy's not right in the head.
Because I know if he ever left Argentina, which is where the Nazis took cover, I think he would be arrested if he ever set foot in America. Like, this guy is actually a psychopath, a wanted. I know there's people lined up to get to this guy.
All of this, to be clear, because he can't refute my videos about him. The first video that I made about him was in response to a disgusting campaign that he was raging against a Yemeni teenager named Rashid Al-Haddad. Al-Haddad is a Yemeni influencer who uploaded a TikTok of himself visiting the captured Galaxy leadership in Yemen. This is something that any tourist could do in Yemen. You paid a fee and you could go and visit the ship. Based on this TikTok, and again, the fact that this guy talked to Hassan Piker, it all comes back to Hassan Piker. Ethan has this really weird obsession with Hassan Piker. He will defame literally anyone if they have any sort of perceived link to Hassan Piker. So because of that, Ethan started defaming Rashid as a terrorist. You know, making that sort of allegation against an Arabic man living in the Middle East is something that could very realistically get him.
I have heard this particular thing come up over and over and over again about Hassan and a Yemeni TikTok influencer, because they're just like, oh, he is a terrorist. No, he's fucking not. What, dog? Like, at all. He's just some fucking TikToker.
Him killed. So that's a pretty serious allegation to be making based on nothing more than a video where the guy went on a tourist trip to a captured cargo ship. And Ethan, based on nothing more than like a gut feeling that he had, kept trying to accuse this guy of being a terrorist.
This Houthi pirate, I mean,
not a Houthi pirate. Not a Houthi, not a pirate.
who are you kidding? This guy's a fucking terrorist.
He accused him of being a member of the Houthi organization who call themselves Ansar Allah, something which Rashid could not be because he is a Sunni Muslim, not a Shia, so that's nonsensical, and kept trying to grasp at straws to say that he was a terrorist because there was a picture of him holding a gun, I guess, and he went on a tourist trip to a captured ship, and he, who doesn't speak English by the way, once left a comment on Instagram saying, "I am a soldier."
Are you a soldier? Yes. That seems pretty definitive.
Like, how is this evidence that he's a terrorist, Ethan? What terrorist attack has he participated in? It's just all of these inferences based on next to nothing. So my first video regarding Ethan Klein was responding to this. Ethan Klein maliciously defaming someone who he sees as below him.
Gut feeling is a weird way to spell racist. Yeah, no, 1000%. Ethan is very fucking racist, and he showed his ass really hard during the I guess you could call it a debate he had, which was very fucking weird.
Caesar's unable to fight back, a poor Yemeni guy who grew up during the Saudi-American genocide on his country, being attacked by Ethan for nothing more than the fact that he talked to Hassan Piker once, being branded a literal terrorist. So I responded to that. Because Ethan's wife, Hila, who is not just his wife, but also his collaborator in the H3 podcast and previously in the H3 Productions YouTube channel that made them famous in the first place, you know, she's the one who was holding the camera in that sexual harassment video. So I made a video using Ethan's own logic to argue that she herself was a terrorist, which, to be clear, there is way more evidence of than there is any sort of evidence of Rashid being a terrorist. But first, my reason...
Also, no, Hila Klein is a terrorist. Ethan is a man that barely knows how to control his bowel movements. Him trying to talk politics is like trying to see a squid. It's like seeing a squid try to fly. You're right. Like, I'm stupid, okay? I am a dummy. I'm a dummy who has to learn. I try to learn. I admit when I am wrong and I move forward. My opinions change over time. Like, rewind, like, 3 years ago, I thought that a two-state solution was the option, right? I did not know about the Nakba. I did not know about details about Israel in depth. I still have much more to learn. I did not know about a lot of the history of Israel as a country. They don't really teach a lot of that in America. I had to seek that out. And once I learned, I came to the conclusion that I'm at now. I changed my mind in light of the evidence brought to me. That is what I try to do. I'm kind of a dummy, so I need to do that. When I talk politics, I talk about things that I know as best I can, right? And if I am wrong about something, then I absolutely admit it. I admit it and I move forward. Ethan thinks he is a fucking genius. It's insane. I'm the smartest dummy you know. Oh, shush. Mwah. I mean, the other thing that I try to keep in mind about anything that I say is that I try to keep my philosophy about life first and foremost, right? Epicurean hedonism. The most amount of good to the most amount of people while minimizing suffering as much as possible. As much good as can be done. There is no, like, if Superman wouldn't support something, I'm not going to support it. And Superman sure as heck ain't gonna do any of the shit Israel's done. I believe people should be like superheroes. That's a big part of my philosophy. If Spider-Man wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. If Spider-Man wouldn't support it, I wouldn't support it. Same, like, that's where I go for my morals. And people say, oh, that's childish, that's silly. Yeah, because sometimes that's where you need to go for your true north. And that's okay. The Superman thing, people were going to die. Yeah, people are dying right now. I'm not going to make excuses for the people that are killing them.
The reason for making this video was not to shit on Ethan and Gila Klein. I do not give a shit about Ethan and Gila Klein as people. That's why I totally ignored them until they started spreading genocidal Zionist propaganda during the Israeli genocide of the Palestinian people of Gaza. That's why the only time I had ever mentioned Ethan or Gila Klein on either of my channels before this was actually to agree with them. Ironically, when they were branding the YouTuber Vorsh as a pedophile. At the time, I didn't know about Ethan Klein's own history with pedophilic video content. The point of this video was to, well, make a simple point about how easily people like Ethan and Gila Klein brand Arabs as terrorists or other people who they see as easy targets or the demonized subjects of Western imperialism, when they themselves have skeletons in their closet that provide us with much better evidence that one of them could be considered a terrorist by the very definition that Ethan himself has been using, which, to be clear, is this.
The funny thing about me, I don't like terrorism, and I don't like terrorists. If they're Jews, Christians, Muslims, they're all bad. What is terrorism? It's intentionally targeting civilian population for political goals. I don't like it. None of it.
Okay, I'm happy to use that definition of terrorism. So in that video, I argued, using Ethan's own standards that he was applying to Rashid, that there is way more evidence that Gila Klein is a terrorist based on her service in the genocidal Israeli military. A group, by the way, that Ethan Klein himself acknowledges is a terrorist organization.
But I'll say, yeah, Israel, the IDF is terrorist. Yes, the IDF is terrorism.
Ethan and Gila tried to excuse Gila Klein's membership in this organization, usually with two arguments. One is that Israel has conscription, so she cannot be blamed for it, but this is a red herring, as you're going to see in the video clip that I'm about to play, because Gila actually started out with a role in the IDF that was very far away from the action, very disconnected from it. But she found it boring, so she volunteered for a post that was closer to the action, and then she was transferred to the illegally occupied West Bank. And she herself says that if she had been transferred to a place that she did not like, she would have found a way out of the IDF. That implies two things. She liked this new post, terrorizing people in the occupied West Bank, which is why she didn't try to leave. And two, that it's actually a lot easier to get out of the Israeli military than they're letting on, because she said herself in that interview that she could have gotten out if she wanted.
So my job was to...
The IDF will let you leave for a lot of reasons, unless you oppose Israel. If you say you do not find it morally conscionable to continue the genocide that is going on in Gaza, Israel will send you to prison because you tried to get out of the IDF. That is a thing.
Like, when they send officers or, like, people to go serve, I had to, like, logistically help with, like, their hotel or a room, things like that. But it was all on the computer. It just felt like some computer thing.
Right, okay. So like, secretary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was super boring, and I really hated it. Just wasting my life.
Yeah.
It could get really frustrating. I don't know.
Right.
And you got to do it for 2 years.
Right.
So I filled out that form and I tried it, and then I somehow ended up in a better place that I liked a lot more.
Ethan and Gila, paradoxically, despite the fact that Ethan himself has branded the IDF as a terrorist organization, clearly don't actually think that it's wrong to be a member of the IDF and to participate in the genocide against Palestinians.
I mean, it's a very selfish move to decide, okay, I'm not going to do it, but everybody else will.
Like Israel as a place, the mentality.
It's a selfish move to not do forced conscription. Insane.
You're growing up there, like everybody feels an obligation to protect, to serve, to nurture this place that feels like the only place in the world where they can live and be Jewish and not be like discriminated against.
I mean, when you're growing up with constant
that is objectively an insane thing to say.
Terror attacks, the army is a necessity.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if people think that's a controversial statement. That is the reality of Israel.
It's
and
not
so
it's just
for one person to decide I'm not going to do it is a very selfish decision, because meanwhile you're not doing it, everybody else is doing it and putting their life on hold. So
no, absolutely not. It is an incredibly selfish decision to try to justify joining the IDF. It's unfucking forgivable. It's horrible. Well, You know, it's very, very selfish to not join the SS, to not attempt to reach the SS. It is mandatory for each German citizen. Yeah, that's what she's fucking saying. Seriously, it's just arguing that you have to serve in the Nazi army because everybody else is doing it.
So it doesn't make any sense for her to be like, oh, but I didn't join of my own free will. I was conscripted. I didn't have a choice in that. When you aren't even against the IDF and what it does. The reason why Gila didn't want to join the IDF and had to be conscripted is just because it's not the path that she wanted in life. Not that she disagrees with the organization and its terrorist actions. Terrorist because her husband himself said they are terrorists, by the way. So to seek moral absolution on the basis that you were conscripted, when you fundamentally agree with everything that the army that conscripted you does, when you fundamentally agree with the existence and purpose of the terrorist organization that conscripted you, is very...
That is Gila Klein supporting an IDF pilot who ran an attack on Iran.
very disingenuous. Anyway, Gila Klein recounts she was forced to join. She got a post far from the action. She didn't like it, so she asked for a transfer. She was transferred to the occupied West Bank, which she had a lot more fun with. For her, it was like an adventure to terrorize Palestinians, I guess. And she volunteered to go on an illegal raid designed to terrorize Palestinians. And as a bonus, Ethan Klein also calls Ramallah, the Palestinian city of Ramallah, a terrorist city. And he calls the people who were kidnapped on this IDF raid, this raid by a group that he himself says is a terrorist group. So yeah, check it out.
I somehow ended up in a better place that I liked a lot more. Before it was a daily thing where you go back home every day, and the new one was in a way that was a base that was far from my house. So you go there for the whole week, and then you come back for the weekend.
So you preferred that? Were you gone for a whole week?
I did.
Interesting. Why?
It was kind of like just more of an adventure, more of a different experience that I preferred than to just go to a boring job. For some reason, it was more interesting. I enjoyed it more.
You told me once you went on like a mission with them to like a terrorist city.
Yeah.
That was kind of a crazy story.
To a terrorist city.
So my officers and like the soldiers in that brigade, they would go every night on a raid in Armada to arrest terrorists. And so I always saw them preparing for it and leaving, and then I would stay in the base. So one time I wanted to go with them just to experience it.
Why? You just were all of a sudden had an urge to go with them?
Genocide was rewarding. Well, it's fun for her, right? Going into a city that they have completely destabilized and destroyed most of, to terrorize civilians who are just trying to live their lives because they don't like that they're brown. She really likes going on these Klan rallies. Aren't these people ever learn how much they sound like lunatics? No. There's full brainwashing going on here. This is absolutely brain-cooked bullshit. Gila Klein is like is a monster. She's a terrible person.
So there is clearly way more evidence that Gila Klein is a terrorist than there is that Rashid al-Haddad is a terrorist. We have a direct confession of Gila Klein admitting to her membership in a terrorist organization, by Ethan's own standards, and vividly describing how she participated in a terrorist attack. There is nothing of the sort for Rashid. Ethan and Gila often tried to excuse her by saying that she was just a secretary, but what if Rashid was a secretary in the Houthis? Would they then say that he wasn't a terrorist? Obviously, terrorist groups need secretaries, they need logistical employees, they need people to help out with that side of the operation. Obviously, they wouldn't give him a pass on that. So why the hell should we give Gila a pass? Do you think Ethan and Gila Klein would say that an ISIS member was not a terrorist if they were conscripted? Do you think they would say that a Houthi member was not a terrorist if they were conscripted? Obviously they wouldn't, yet they try to make special exceptions purely for the IDF and Gila. These people have no beliefs, they have no standards. It's whatever they think will get them out of trouble. That's what they will believe in the moment. They never consistently apply anything to anything. The actual fact is that Gila Klein, due to her self-admitted role serving as a secretary under the regional commander, directly responsible for terrorizing the Palestinian city of Ramallah in the illegally occupied West Bank, probably bore significantly more direct responsibility for the terrorist operations in the area than a random soldier did. Secretaries, to be clear, have been prosecuted for their role in crimes against humanity. There is no special exception for you just because you're just a secretary.
Yep. Former Nazi camp secretary found guilty of complicity in 10,500 murders. And also, by the way, I do think that even a 97-year-old Nazi that has avoided any form of punishment for their entire life deserves to go on trial and spend their remaining years under the jail. Flat out. Flat out. I do not believe that any Nazi gets to outlive their crimes. This is not a normal crime.
And in many cases, what you're doing is far more crucial to the operation than what many, if not most, soldiers do. So being just a secretary is no excuse. But aside from that, she wasn't just a secretary. There are photos of Gila Klein with a beret of the Israeli Kafir Brigade, which is one of the most notorious Israeli army formations, largely dedicated to occupying the Palestinian West Bank. In order for soldiers to earn the spotted beret that Gila Klein clearly had, they must complete 8 months of combat training, including advanced training in urban warfare, advanced weaponry, fighting from armored personnel carriers, chemical warfare, and other challenges of today's battlefield. So Gila's role as a secretary already clearly qualifies her as a terrorist by Ethan's own standards. But she was also not just a secretary. She was a combatant, trained in combat, occupying land that does not belong to her country, that she has no right to be in, and going on raids for what she described as to have an adventure. Compared to the standard of evidence that Ethan Klein used to brand Rashid al-Haddad a terrorist, the evidence that Gila Klein is a terrorist is overwhelming. That Ethan is so willing to throw out these allegations against Rashid al-Haddad, yet didn't even do like a second of introspection to think, wait, how could this possibly be thrown back at me? Maybe this applies more to Gila than to him. Shows how easy it is for him, and many others like him, to dehumanize people purely on the basis of race. The reason why they had such an easy time throwing this allegation out at Rashid is that he is Arab. It's not based on evidence, it's not based on fact, it's not based on a consistent standard, as I clearly just demonstrated, it's based on race. And that is absolutely fucking disgusting. Ethan has also said that he thinks Israeli West Bank settlers are valid military targets.
On the West Bank, like, these people are, when you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff, like that's what's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are like, I mean, more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
So then, what exactly is a secretary in the IDF who occupied said illegally occupied West Bank, who was a member of what Ethan himself said was a terrorist organization, if not a valid target? So Ethan...
let's be honest, Ethan probably wouldn't be that into Israeli propaganda if it wasn't for Gila, because he's too fucking stupid to have any real convictions in anything besides fast food. That is very much true. Between the two of them, between Ethan and Gila, I have more umbrage with Gila than Ethan. Gila is someone who served in the IDF, who has taught Ethan a variety of Hasbara talking points, and has done something that I also find unforgivable, which is create Teddy Fresh, which I will say, for the life of me, I have to bring it up anytime I can, is some of the most disgusting clothing wear I have ever seen. I know it is petty, I know it is minimal, but this is an adult toddler clothing brand, and I find it disgusting. It's gross, the fits are trash, the designs are lazy, they are garbage. They are garbage and they are bad, and they look like they were designed to cosplay as a 4-year-old. Fuck Teddy Fresh, these clothes are awful.
Is, according to his own standards and logic, a terrorist who was a member of a terrorist organization and who was a valid military target. That this guy, married to that person, had the gall to call some random kid a terrorist based on nothing just because he's an Arab on the internet who talked to Hassan Piker is so fucking racist and disgusting. What a piece of shit. That was the message of my first video to Ethan Klein. He never responded to it, at least not directly. He did on one or two occasions allude to it, and I made more videos refuting him, but there's nothing that Ethan Klein wants less than to expose his audience to my actual arguments, because he knows he can't beat me on the arguments. That's why he engages in these defamatory personal attacks endlessly.
Ethan and Gila Klein support the genocide as proven by the totality of their statements and actions. Very true.
Now, I just want to address something specific before moving on, because I know that Ethan Klein's incredibly dumb fans will harp on it endlessly if I don't. Ethan Klein, during his debate with Hassan Piker, said that he thinks there's a genocide in Gaza.
Do you believe that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza?
Yes.
Now, this is utter bullshit. He either does not think that, or he thinks that and he supports it. Conceding immediately on that point during that debate was merely a strategy by Ethan Klein to get out of having to argue for a position that he knows is untenable. So he just said that so that he could instead focus on comparatively inconsequential interpersonal garbage. The way that Ethan Klein has conducted himself ever since the beginning of this genocide is certainly not like someone who believes there's a genocide happening and who is against it. Let's imagine that during World War II, there's a guy who claims that they are vehemently pro-Jewish and against the Holocaust. Yet, curiously, all they ever actually do is attack and try to ruin their lives, who they deem as being too against the Holocaust and the Nazis. They almost never actually talk about what is being done to the Jews themselves, let alone name and blame the state, the people, and the organizations that are doing it. In fact, they actually regularly share Nazi propaganda designed to legitimize the Holocaust, and they instead talked during the Holocaust about how Germany gets a bad rap and it's actually a really beautiful and diverse nation, and how there's no discrimination against Jews there, and how they hope to get the chance to travel there, during the genocide, and make videos about how awesome Germany is to disprove all the dastardly anti-German propaganda. Again, during the Holocaust. That is Ethan Klein regarding Gaza.
What I want to do is show you guys how I see Israel, because you don't see that. When you listen to Hassan and you hear all these fucking mega lefties talking about it like it's some super racist, crazy, like Jim Crow style of society.
That's what it is!
I can't wait to show you guys how beautiful, how multicultural, how free it feels for people, or just, it's a beautiful place, it is. It's one of the most diverse places I've ever been.
I've always wanted to go on Birthright.
You have to ask some questions here, like if Ethan Klein is against rather than for the genocide.
And this, Ethan, is why you were put in the Sabra hummus portion of the tier list.
Why is it that he is against literally every single state or organization that attacks Israel? So Ethan's against the genocide, and yet he can't even critically support anyone who is actually fighting back against the state that is carrying out that genocide. In fact, it's not just that he doesn't critically support them, he literally talks about them in the most despective terms. They're terrorists, they're evil. They are the evil in the case of Iran.
Whatever you think about Israel, Iran is bad or worse. They are the fucking evil. They are the evil. They're the reason for all this bullshit. Like Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, they're all attacking under the direction of Iran. They're all being these jihadists, fucking Islamists.
What Ethan is saying here, and I have to stress this, is Islamophobic to the degree of saying that he thinks that the Jews control media. That is the equivalent of what Ethan is saying. Ethan is claiming that a single Arab nation is controlling all the other Arab nations, and that they're the real masterminds behind everything. And that's his excuse as to why Israel has to do a genocide. I don't get into the reads about what a particular Arab nation is doing, or how they are acting, or about the civil rights happening in that nation, or those kinds of things, because that is not what I care about at the moment. When people say things like, well, yeah, why don't you go to the Gaza Strip? Okay, so you're saying that you want the IDF to kill me. Okay, awesome, great. Or, yeah, you're defending Iran? You know what they do to trans people in Iran? I don't care what they do to trans people in Iran right now. I care that they are being actively attacked in an unprovoked bombing by Israel that is going to eventually lead to war to get people killed. You know who is doing the most damage to queer communities in the Middle East right now? The people who are committing a genocide, who are killing a bunch of queer people.
Let's put this together here. Israel, according to Ethan, is a terrorist organization that is carrying out genocide. Israel is known to have murdered at least 60,000 people in Gaza, and that is a gross underestimate, including that number of tens of thousands of children, and even the worst estimates, the worst fantasies against the Iranian government do not even remotely arrive at that level of atrocity, at that level of evil. Yet Ethan, nonetheless, cannot bring himself to admit that anyone fighting back against Israel is in the right in that isolated circumstance. Like if you had someone during World War II who claimed vehemently to be against the Holocaust, but said that the Nazis were the lesser evil compared to the Soviets, you would know that guy was a fucking Nazi. People who were actually against the Holocaust and against the Nazis supported the alliance with the Soviets against them, even if they hated the USSR. So even if Ethan Klein is some...
That's the thing, right? Progressive beliefs are far harder to spread when people are too busy trying to avoid being killed. Exactly! If you want any society to progress, you need to stop bombing the fuck out of them. And if you're mad that a bunch of children are picking up guns to shoot back at a country, maybe stop forcing those children to grow up in a war zone.
Normal circumstances would hate the Houthis, would hate Hezbollah, would hate Iran. He would support them in their actions against Israel. But he doesn't. If Ethan was actually against the Gaza genocide, what he would be saying is the exact opposite of what he actually said there. Not whatever you think about Israel, Iran is worse, thus you should support Israel against Iran. No. He would be saying, whatever you think about Iran, however bad they might be, Israel is a lot worse. So you should support them against Israel in that isolated circumstance. But he never does that because Ethan Klein is just a pro-Israel, pro-genocide shill. And him saying once, oh yeah, this is genocide offhandedly, when his actions are very clearly not those of someone who believes there is a genocide going on, doesn't change that one bit. Now, let me show you some instances where Ethan Klein has spread ridiculous genocidal pro-Israel propaganda. And this is just a small selection, there's way more of these. Ethan Klein spread the utterly ridiculous notion that Hamas beheaded 40 babies on October 7th, a genocidal lie concocted by the Israeli state.
They found 40 dead fucking babies at this kibbutz where, like, tons of people got killed.
Okay? 2 babies were killed on October 7th. One killed by accident in crossfire, and one killed by an Israeli tank shell.
I don't know if they were beheaded, okay? And some people really care about that detail.
Ethan Klein justified Israeli systematic attacks on hospitals in Gaza on the basis that Palestinian militants forced them to attack the hospital.
Yeah, if you always react, there will be no time for you to think contextually. Exactly. If it is always something that, if someone must always seek the approval of their countrymen in this kind of way. When it comes to Israel, when it's always like, hey, you better not talk about that. Tell me. Do you support the death of babies? Do you support murder that these people did that? Then, they focus you on that. While at the same time, that country is constantly committing murder and killing babies. It gets them to zero in and focus on one thing, which is fucking ridiculous.
This is something that you would think that someone who is a vehement opponent of genocide would denounce. Has Ethan Klein denounced it? No, actually, Ethan Klein just constantly reposts fucking GHF propaganda on his Instagram story. Yep. There are literally countless articles about this in mainstream Western media outlets, not exactly anti-Israel propaganda, ascribing clear blame for this to Israel and to the GHF. And Ethan Klein skips all over that to just post statements from the fucking GHF themselves. Badem, he just posted. He sees literal Israeli genocide.
Oh, and I also want to say something. If Hamas was under a hospital, that still doesn't mean you bomb the fucking hospital. If there are Hamas soldiers under a hospital, that doesn't mean you bomb the hospital.
Ethan, aside from accusing me of being a pedophile in literally our first ever interaction, has also accused me of being wanted and said that there are people lining up to sue me. That just out of frame, trust him. Who knows who they are? I don't know. Does anyone know?
This guy is actually a psychopath, a wanted. I know there's people lined up to get to this guy.
I'm guilty of all sorts of crimes. He can't provide any evidence of that. Just trust him on it. And he's also said that he has logs from my Discord, which, by the way, literally anyone can join for $1, not exactly secret, and that these logs are apparently so bad that they're going to get me put into prison.
There's so much, dude, to say about him. It's kind of insane. In fact, BadEmpanada, I didn't get to it in the video, but you're not going to be happy to know this, but people have infiltrated a Discord for Patreon members. And they all have access to this place where they literally talk about doing psyops, faking posts, brigading, and all this shit. And I have 4 years of all of his chats. There's stuff in there that will put him in prison. I'm not even fucking kidding. He is a straight up. And so going through this, I was trying to figure out what to do with it. And I think the best thing is just to release it to the public. And the amount of creators that he has psyoped in there.
Oh, okay. I really need to mention this. Ethan Klein has Tourette's. He has a tic, and that is what is doing that. That's what that is. Stop sniffing on the fucking mic. No, he's not doing drugs. He has a tic. I would like to very much hammer home this particular detail. And I think it is important to hammer that home because it is something that he cannot fully control. It is something that he does very much get exacerbated when he is under severe stress, and that is a big factor in this. But it is important to note that he is not doing hard drugs. He is that's not what is causing that. Okay. If you see him twitch or look at his hands or anything, that is just a symptom of his Tourette's, which he has said gets worse. His tics get more intense when he is in a more heightened state. The amount of them is a sign of how emotionally and mentally distressed he has been over the course of this entire crash out. It is very, very obviously him being more and more and more pressured.
That he's like participating in brigading like clandestine operations to fucking ruin these people, to just terrorize these people is staggering. I think if I just release it to the public, people will just
Coke is mid-tier at best. Coke is a hard drug, dude. Two things that aggravate a tic or a stutter are stress and talking about them. Yes.
Community should look through that and just see the fucking depths of evil that this guy is, because this guy's been going on a victory tour. He's going to be real quiet on these leaks, I'm telling you. So I'm going to make sure those goes up.
Now, despite what Ethan Klein said in that clip, he never actually released those logs. I'm the one who actually released them myself, because there's literally nothing in there. Like, even if the things that he accused me of in that clip were true, like faking posts, brigading, it's not a crime.
Sardasim, thank you very much for subscribing for 1 month and adding on to the subathon, darling.
I am to like fake a post or brigade Reddit or whatever it was that he was accusing me of there. So God knows how broken his brain is that he seems to consider those things to be on the level of like criminality.
I'm getting some sip.
Again, I released these Discord logs myself because Ethan was not releasing them, just to show people that there's literally nothing there. Like, my Discord
there it is
nothing special. It's a generic creative Discord where people who pay $1 to me for a membership can go and talk about my videos or really whatever the fuck they want. I honestly don't care that much. I look at my Discord like once every 2 or 3 days just to make sure no one's doing anything stupid. And he's trying to frame it as like this nexus of like a global criminal network to the extent that he's going to get me put into prison simply by releasing the logs to the Discord, which, to be clear, is something that I myself did immediately after he said this. And Ethan never mentioned this again. He never released the logs himself. He apparently never even talked about them. He kept calling them like the BadEmpanada files, like it was like the Epstein files or something, like something super serious. And just to show you how stupid Ethan Klein is regarding this sort of thing, I was contacted by someone who was trolling him, pretending to be a journalist, who was interested in the nefarious BadEmpanada files. And they sent him complete nothing logs. To be clear, this is what they sent him. And Ethan Klein's response was, keep the screenshots coming. Love seeing them. You love seeing them? Dude, what about that exactly did you love seeing? Ethan's just unwell. He's honestly living in a different reality to people with like half a brain. He's such a bag of hot air. And it's insane that he tries to claim that others defame him when he does this sort of shit all the time. Not just to me, as I said, to many other people as well. Particularly with the sex crime accusations. Like, this guy throws out sex crime accusations like they're fucking nothing. Just look at his reaction when his producer, Dan, tried to imply that the YouTuber Noah Samson was a rapist in response to Noah Samson making a video that refuted Ethan Klein's claims on Israel-Palestine.
Also, if I was Noah, I wouldn't get into the whole rape denial.
Oh, he straight up is all in it.
Interesting.
What?
History.
Some information to tell you, but after the show.
About the Cody Cook?
No, it's nothing. It's nothing that you know about yet. It's interesting how many people come out of the woodwork. Noah.
What the fuck? Yo, Doc, how you doing?
Exes, you know.
So to be clear here, in response to Noah Samson making a video regarding Ethan Klein's views on Israel-Palestine, Ethan Klein went looking for dirt on Noah Samson's personal life. His crew member implied that Noah Samson was a rapist. And then they invited someone who went out with Noah Samson for a while to come on their show and talk shit about Noah Samson. This is how Ethan operates. You refute him on the politics, on the issues, and he attacks you personally with pure defamation. And again, I want to emphasize, his entire base of content is purely in reaction to others and attacking others almost all the time. Ethan Klein's content is either like, look at this person, I'm going to say something bad about them. or look at this person, I'm going to laugh at their expense. He does not produce original content at all. And now that me and others, as a result of him, to be clear, attacking us personally first, are throwing shit back at him in the same way that he has done to others and profited off to the tune of millions of dollars for decades at this point, well, a decade and a half. He's acting like he's the victim of some sort of smear campaign. He's the victim of defamation. People are maliciously attacking him personally for no valid reason.
Now, trust me, I would pursue legal action against BadEmpanada, whose MO is essentially defamation.
You think I'm kidding? That's a real tweet.
It's Nazi and Pano one, Dan Nazi.
Okay, I just witnessed on YouTube a man raping and eating a minor.
This guy's entire being has been attacking
cool.
others. His entire career is built on attacking others and has been built on actual real defamation since its very beginning. And he has the gall to act like a victim here. It is an absolute joke. Ethan has also said on his stream that he is in a Discord that he calls a BadEmpanada support group that is dedicated to like stalking me and doxing me and stuff, in which he and other people who I've refuted in the past, I guess, talk about me and like try to dox me and dig up dirt on me or something.
I'm in a support group with like 10 other people where I got the Discord messages from who have all been the target of like relentless, horrific harassment. This is the kind of guy who like, he has a Patreon Discord that and basically a small, medium size of psychopaths that are all in on the harassment campaign, where he'll drop a YouTube link, a Twitter link, a Reddit link, whatever, to go astroturf and whatever, just humiliate, harass, attack, etc., etc.
And again, this is someone who accused me of being like the head honcho of a like organized Discord harassment campaign against him, when he himself just like openly admits to doing precisely what he accuses me of to me.
Incredible. Ethan's ludicrous child protective services
So I've responded to a ton of Ethan Klein's political opinions and opinions on current events regarding Israel, Palestine, and history and stuff like that. And Ethan Klein has never even tried to actually respond to me himself. Instead, it's always these personal attacks. And he really loves to claim that he's like the victim of anti-Semitism or whatever. You know, typical pro-Israel stuff. I've refuted all of the political and historical aspects of his whole Content Nuke video on Hassan Piker. I have refuted a number of his segments on his podcast, like his downplaying of the Palestinian Nakba, his spreading of malicious IDF genocidal propaganda, and the aforementioned video comparing Hila Klein to Rashid al-Haddad after he defamed Rashid al-Haddad as a terrorist. Ethan couldn't respond to any of those videos, but then something happened that was probably the best thing that's ever happened to him in his life, to be honest, because it allowed him to immediately frame himself as a victim to an audience of uncritical idiots. According to him and Hila at least, someone called Child Protective Services on them, and he immediately blamed this on like every single person who was critiquing him for his pro-Israel opinions. He's blamed me for that, he's blamed Hassan Piker, he's blamed the YouTuber Denims, probably other people as well who I'm just forgetting. He actually blamed Denim so much that he ended up having to retract what he had said about her in order to protect himself from potential defamation proceedings by her.
I feel like this only ends with Ethan being like financially obliterated, right? Like all the lawsuits would just like cook him. They have to. At a point, there's got to be like a wall where all of this, you know, defamation, all of this legal bullshit just collapses on him, right?
Ethan has also just outright admitted that he doesn't actually have any clue as to who called CPS.
Who called CPS?
What the fuck? So I don't know.
Meaning that every person who he said called them is someone who he knowingly defamed. And as a result of this defamation that Ethan Klein made against me, I've received quite a number of death threats, many dozens in the very least, from his lovely fans, vividly describing just how they're going to hunt down and kill me. This is on top of his incitement of his lovely, brilliant, definitely not disgusting, doxing and harassing fans with literally nothing better to do in their life but this, accusing me of being on the run from child sex crime charges. Ethan Klein, the master defamer, literally the only thing that he knows how to do. Every accusation really is a confession with these Zionists. Ethan has milked this for all it's worth because he knows that he can't actually win on what everyone actually cares about here, which is Israel-Palestine. He doesn't want to admit that he's wrong, he doesn't want to cede any ground on that. So instead, Ethan wants to frame himself as a massive victim. Like he wants to frame himself as being doxed, attacked, harassed. Basically, he wants to get as far away from the actual issue, Israel-Palestine, as possible, and instead frame it as just people attacking him. He especially wants to frame it as people attacking him because he's Jewish. You know, very typical Zionist stuff.
Yeah,
because
this whole thing.
Zionists know
every single time that Ethan is criticized in any way, he cries Zionism, and it is truly pathetic that it always ends up like this. I have yet to see a moment where Ethan, goes off on something and then gets called out for it, where he doesn't say, oh, you're being anti-Semitic against me.
They cannot actually win on the facts regarding Israel.
Actually acts? Wait, what do you mean?
Palestine, they know their views are abhorrent, so they retreat to this sort of bullshit where they just play victim and pretend that people are attacking them on an anti-Semitic basis so that they can avoid actually dealing with the facts, the figures, the arguments. So Ethan's narrative regarding this CPS call has been ridiculous from the very beginning. He tries to frame it as like swatting, as if like SEAL Team 6 kicked in his door or something and tried to take his kids away. That's not what Child Protective Services do. All that happened here is a social worker came to his house, asked him and Hila some questions, asked to see the kids, then talked to the kids, and that was it. A trained social worker checking in on your kids is not you being a victim of any sort of harassment campaign or of anything that put you at any real risk at all at any point. But Ethan wants you to think that this is like the time when, for example, Nazis tried to SWAT him. It's not. Sending armed police to your house. A CPS call is not the same thing as that. It's a precautionary measure. And the best outcome of a CPS call is that everything that the caller said was false. So if that was the case here, everything worked as intended. The kids were checked on, everything was confirmed to actually be fine. The system worked as intended. But Ethan is trying to frame it as if like a SWAT team came to his door, guns drawn, and were like a second away from shooting him and his kids.
You know, I told you guys too that the rules had changed once these people promoted CPS and justified it. The rules had changed for me. This is it. Game's on. Nothing's slowing me down. There's no line I won't cross. There's nothing I won't do against people that have promoted, encouraged, and justified CPS coming to my house.
Anti-Semitism is when...
Give us a fucking break, man. This is not the end of the world, and it's all because he is desperate to play the victim here. Because he was in the back foot regarding Israel-Palestine, so massively overstating what actually happened and harping on it endlessly for months on end is all that he really had left. And just to be clear here, Ethan doesn't even think that it's wrong to call for this sort of thing against others, except in much worse ways. For example, on one podcast episode, Ethan just asked a lawyer straight up, how can we get Hassan Piker arrested? Can we report him for terrorism?
Fuck!
You know, how can we ruin his life?
Any laws that we can go after Hassan for? Are you familiar with that? Has he broken any domestic terror laws?
So in this video, how insufferable are they going now? Here's Ethan Klein asking just a lawyer, which I don't know if do I recognize that guy? Asking a lawyer, how can we get Hassan Piker arrested? It's wild. The fucking well never runs dry. It's just, the more you tumble down, the worse it gets. Ethan constantly has feces-related incidents while live and seems weirdly fixated on feces. This was not an isolated incident. I am not going to watch that. I don't fucking care. This is the kind of thing I don't like about BadEmpanada in particular. This doesn't fucking matter, dog. Like, the skull hoax, this matters, right? Sending skulls to him, that's a thing. Or the speculating that he's being fueled by hard drugs. That's fucking wild, dude. Don't do that! Don't do that! Fuck, man! He is an unhinged, crazy person. I've said that. I don't like BadEmpanada. Unhinged, crazy man. Alright? The conversation about Ethan is a very self-evident thing that even this crazy man can have.
It after
I think the idea of him being, of the call being, if he is willing to share this, what is he willing to do if the kids, to the kids he doesn't want shared? I understand that, but it is still something that I don't think is justifiable in this particular kind of case.
Was made a video about him, apparently because iDubbbz's video about him put him on the back foot or something, and he felt like he needed to start playing victim again by bringing up another story about how he was getting harassed in real life.
There's something that I've never talked about publicly, but around the same time, We received 2 human skulls in the mail at
I'm
our
going to
home,
get Freudian
which
slip
led
on
us
the
to
sound,
having
Nada.
a very pleasant interview with the FBI.
Now, Ethan immediately posted pictures of these skulls to his Instagram and other platforms, and people quickly noticed that they had the serial number showing. And they found out that these skulls were from a website called Skulls Unlimited, which sells and rents skulls mostly to education and entertainment companies. And they also noticed that the specific skull that Ethan Klein had shown clearly in his stories was actually already back on the Skulls Unlimited website and being sold again. That's pretty weird given that he said the FBI was investigating this, right? You know, the FBI would clearly not just let you send this important evidence of a supposed threat back to the seller so that the seller could have it listed again for sale literally within a month of this supposedly happening. It's also just unbelievable that Ethan could have kept this on the down low. Ethan is desperate to play the victim, and if something like this had actually happened, he would have mentioned it immediately. Like when the CPS call happened, Ethan literally immediately dedicated like an entire podcast episode to it. Yet him apparently receiving human skulls as a threat, he didn't.
So yeah, it's very clear that that shit didn't actually happen. I think I'm kind of done with this video though. I think we can move on from it.